Sunday, 20th of March. Showdown is on. The relegation derby. Sunderland against Newcastle United. Come on, Sunderland! I actually quite like this tune, to be fair. Yeah, okay. Sorry for that intro, guys. I had to do that. That was just something that's... oh, my... This is... I can't even put into words how big this game is. I've said in the past that I really, really hate playing Newcastle. And it's because it's the fear of losing. It's the fear of losing the game. You know, losing bragging rights to your rivals. I hate playing at home, especially because... You know, the fear of losing at home is unbearable. So thankfully, we've already avoided that and won 3-0. But, you know, this is without a doubt the biggest derby in recent memory. And not just for Sunderland, but for Newcastle as well. Because this is one of the first times in a few years, or certainly the first derbies in a while, where both teams are near the bottom of the table. And the prize of so much is at stake in this game. This is now, obviously, I mentioned in the video about Rafa Benitez being appointed Newcastle manager that St James's Park, let's be fair, it's going to be rocking and bouncing for this game, and rightly so, because I rate Rafa Benitez. I think he's a really good manager, and if Newcastle stay up, then he is going to do wonders for them over the next few years. Well, when I say wonders, I mean wonders in comparison to what they've had to witness the last few years. I think he'll get them to top 10 next year, a good run in a couple of the cups. I expect a trophy on Tyneside, put it this way, in the next 3 years, at least one trophy, if he's going to be allowed to do what he wants to do and rebuild the team and compete to where Newcastle should be competing. Anyway, this is a Sunderland channel though, so let's get into it. There are so many factors to consider going into this derby that it's ridiculous. Sunderland, of course, have had a 2-week break going into this game, which obviously the last game for us was away at Southampton, where we actually should have won in an ideal world. We were seconds away from keeping the first clean sheet since November. And then Virgil van Dijk, isn't it poetic that he's the guy who was linked with us constantly the last couple of years, and he screws us over by scoring an equaliser. But like I said in that review, I would have took a point before the game, without any shadow of a doubt. But now, this is it. So, Sunderland, first of all, if you keep a clean sheet in this game, I'll be absolutely over the moon. Because then that means we're guaranteed a point. And if we kept a clean sheet... Here we go again with the touch wood. You can't even see the damn thing. There you go, there's the touch wood. If we do keep a clean sheet, touch wood, then I would back Sunderland to win. Because I'm not being biased here, but Newcastle's defence is poor. But I will give them credit. They looked more solid. I did watch the game against Leicester. They did actually look more solid. And while you could say that they didn't create much, I think there was that one chance that Sissoko created... in the second half, when he beats the offside trap and goes through into the penalty area. More should have been made of that opportunity for Newcastle, but Leicester didn't look any better than them. Let's be honest, they didn't look any better than Newcastle that day. That's bound to happen with the Benitez effect, with the new manager effect, let alone anybody. But Benitez will command and demand the respect of the players. He's going to get them, and this is what a first home game this is for Rafa Benitez, ladies and gentlemen. This game, I still insist under Steve McLaren, I don't think would have been as easy as a lot of people were making it out to be. But it's a much harder game now than what it potentially could have been a couple of weeks ago. Newcastle, like I said, St James's Park is going to be buzzing because of Benitez's appointment. And like I said, I can't begrudge the Newcastle fans for that because they have the right to be. He's a good manager. However, Newcastle, being the home team, the pressure's on them. Now, I had a conversation with someone on Twitter who said that, I'm not going to name who they are, but they said that basically the pressure was on Sunderland to keep the derby winning streak going. To some degree, that's probably true. But at the same time, we've already made history by winning 6 in a row. Now, obviously, I don't want to lose this game. Like any logical Sunderland fan, I don't want to win this game. Sorry, I don't want to lose this game. I don't want to win it, God. But I'm not thinking of it as much of a derby this time round. I'm thinking of it as a relegation 6-pointer that both sides could do with winning. Newcastle, plain and simply, have to win the game. They still have some hard games. They've got Norwich, Palace, Swansea and Villa after this. Those are games they would target wins. But 2 of those are away from home. and they've generally been poor away from home. Not to mention they've got to go to Southampton and Liverpool and host Man City and Tottenham. They're not easy fixtures. I think Newcastle would lose all of them, to be honest. Although, given the way City's gone recently since the start of February when Pellegrini said he was leaving, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle beat them, actually, to be honest. But anyway, that's a different topic. Newcastle have to win. The onus is going to be on them. The pressure's on them because they're at home, because of the last 6 derby results, although in some respects Benitez hasn't lost 6 times to Sunderland, so that could be a rubbish theory in all aspects. Now, Sunderland, we could do with the 3 points, but a draw would suit us better. We're away from home. Providing we at least match Norwich's result or better it, and get something, obviously, then we're still at the bottom 3 going to the international break. So Sunderland could, but the psychological advantage for Sunderland in particular, if we won this game, not only would we have made it 7 in a row, we'd be 4 points clear of Newcastle and potentially 3 points clear of Norwich, depending on where they get on at West Brom. Sunderland, even if they lost, though, I don't think we'd be down, because the gap would be 2 points. At the very worst case scenario, the gap would be 2 points between us and Newcastle if we were to lose. Obviously, please do not happen, of course, but we can overturn that. We've been in worse positions than this and stayed up. Newcastle, now I'm not saying this because I'm biased or anything, but Newcastle have got a mental fragility at the minute. You could see that against Bournemouth. Once the first goal went in, the crowd not turned, but they were edgy. You could feel the tension around St James's Park, just watching it on Match of the Day a couple of weeks ago. Now, imagine what they'd be like if they lost the derby. They've lost 7 times in a row to Sunderland, and you're 4 points behind them. Does that mean Sunderland are safe? Of course it doesn't. There's still way too much of the season to go left. There's still 8 games. There's still 24 points to play for after this game for Newcastle and Sunderland. But it would make Newcastle's game against Norwich even bigger. This game, like I said, Newcastle need to win. Sunderland, I think, if we got a draw, that's a decent result. I think the main aim that Sam Allardyce will be drilling into his players is keep the game preferably goalless, but keep it level for the first, 60 minutes or so. And if that's going to happen, we need to be switched on. Newcastle are going to come out the traps in the first 20, 30 minutes. We've got to be ready for this. They're going to come out and attack us because it's a game they need to win. So, if we weather that storm and keep it tight, keep it compact, and then keep it at 0-0 as long as possible going into the second half of the game, the longer the game goes on at 0-0 or a draw, say if it was 1-1, 2-2, 4-4, 5-5 or 3-3 or something like that, the longer it's a draw, if Newcastle aren't winning, St James's Park will be tense. They'll be tense. There'll be tension there. It'll be nervous. Sunderland's job is to make sure that happens. We've got to make sure that we can make the home crowd nervous. They're not going to turn on the team as much because they've got a manager who they wanted. Because if McLaren was there, they would have turned on the team if Sunderland conceded the first goal and started well. But they'll be nervy. Make the crowd nervous. So in many ways, that suits Sunderland being the away team going into this game. But at the same time, Newcastle have got home advantage, which in theory should play in their favour. However, in the previous derby, like I've said before, Sunderland somehow played ridiculously poorly in a derby and somehow came out winning 3-0. I'll never understand for the life of me how we won that game. But where do I think the game will be won and lost? I think midfield is going to be massive. I said this last time, but I think the midfield will honestly be crucial again because since then, Newcastle have strengthened in midfield. I think they've got, Shelvey has been good from what I'm hearing, has been good at St James's Park. Not so much on the road, but at home he's been relatively good. Wijnaldum, irrespective of his inconsistencies, he's been their best player this season. Whatever people's negativity of Sissoko, on his day, he can be electric. Whether he's consistent, I don't know, but we still need to be aware of this. And Perez I quite rate as a forward. I think he's quite good on the ball. I think technically he's quite good and he can score goals. Maybe not as much as, say, like a regular, like a Jermaine Defoe or a Darren Bent when he was with us, for instance. Or a Sergio Aguero, obviously. Mitrovic versus Coney in particular, I think that's going to be an interesting battle as well, because both of them are quite physically well built. So there's potential there for a battle. Team news-wise, what would I go for from Sunderland's perspective? I would go for a 4-5-1 again, and I would go for it to try and... I think we need width. And if you're going to have Khazri and Barini on either side, both of them have proved to be, especially Barini, both of them are workers. Khazri, well, he's been so far, there's still a long time to go. Barini is definitely a worker. We need workers in this game if we are going to come out on top. My starting 11 for the game would be Manone, Yedlin, Kone, and although Kabul did well against Southampton, I would stick with O'Shea. Van Aanholt, so that's the defence, that's the goalkeeper and back four sorted. I'd have Catamol, Invia and Rodwell starting this game. Rodwell / Kirchhoff. And then Kazri and Brini out wide and Defoe up top. But I wouldn't be surprised if we started Ndoye. And the reason, Sam Allardyce got slated a lot for starting Ndoye against Southampton, but I could see the logic in it. Sunderland, like against Southampton, in this game, Sunderland are going to have to do a lot of defending. Now, whether it's pretty or not, we're going to be doing the hoof ball, long ball, over the top, over everybody. Defoe, while he's a good player, and I'm really glad we've got him in the team, he's not big or tall. Ndoye is. Now, he might not offer very much, but his job is going to be to keep the ball, hold it up, bring others into play, because we're going to be trying to frustrate Newcastle early on. And then as the 60th minute odd goes, then as the game goes on, bring Defoe on. So I can understand if we did start Ndoye, that would be the reason for it. But Defoe for me has to start, though, because we need our best goal scorer. And he could potentially be the difference maker without putting too much pressure on his shoulders. Newcastle, like I said, they'll come at us. I'm nervous for this, but not because it's a derby, more because of what's at stake. But like I said, Sunderland can recover from a defeat, I think. Newcastle might still do, we don't know, but it would be a bigger damage for them than for Sunderland. If it was a draw, though, it would suit us, and to be honest, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And I say that for every derby, practically, but I would take that now, because it's important for us that while we can try and win this game, it's just as vitally important to not lose it. That's it. I'm not going to say lose or win or goes down because there's still too long to go. Remember, both Sunderland and Newcastle still have to go to Norwich after this game. Like I said, Newcastle's performance against Leicester was an improvement, but that's not the game that's going to define their season. Their season could be defined in their next two games, Sunderland and Norwich. If Sunderland can get, as well from our point of view, if we can win the next two away games against Newcastle and Norwich, or beat the pair of them, it could go a long way to securing survival. Let's see what happens. Anyway, come on, Sunderland. I'm pumped up for it now. I'm really pumped up for it. And by the way, Newcastle, for the fact that you've copied our tactic of appointing a new manager 2 games before the derby, lose your first game, please do not let that come into effect for Newcastle. Highway Sunderland, come on! Let's relegate them Geordie little buggers. I respect all Newcastle fans, obviously. There's teams I hate more than Newcastle. But there you go. Anyway, guys, like I said, unless you're a Newcastle fan, enjoy yourselves for Sunday. Well, enjoy yourselves for Sunday regardless. Good luck to everybody, except if you support Newcastle. And come on, Sunderland. Newcastle 1, Sunderland 1. There's my prediction. Come on, boys. Let's have yous. Come on!